Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. An LMS can do that. It's how tech could transform your L&D. I'm Catherine Newbury and I'm Digits Head of Content. With me today is Andrea, Head of LMS Sales. Welcome Andrea, it's great to have you with us on another webinar. Would you mind just introducing yourself and telling everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. So hi, I'm Andrea Matkin. I am the LMS Sales Manager here at Cypher and with Digits. I've been with the organisation for about 2 years now, so and have a strong background, about 10 years plus in the ed tech industry and another 2 years within the sort of L&D space. So yeah, really excited to have a chat with you all today, and hopefully you come away with some really interesting insights.
Great, thank you so much, Andrea. Just a little quick overview of who we are. Hopefully you've come across Digits before, but if you haven't, we are a digital learning provider, both of LMS, so learning management systems, and bespoke learning content. We have more than 3 decades experience in the industry with our award-winning product, Digits LMS. Household names use Digits LMS, such as B&Q and Kia, and Digits became part of the Cypher group in 2020. Here's a quick look at our agenda for today. We're going to start with a bit of background, ask you about how you use your existing LMS and the L&D challenges facing UK employers. Then Andrea is going to dive into the 3 ways that technology could transform your L&D function. That's analysing skills gaps and delivering personalised learning, enabling succession planning, and building coaching, mentoring, and knowledge networks. We'll also have time to answer your questions at the end. So if you have any questions, do send them in using the control box in the webinar function, and we'll get to those at the end. The webinar is being recorded and the recording will be emailed to you tomorrow if you're watching live. Okay, as I mentioned, we're going to kick off today with a quick poll, just asking you, how do you use your LMS? Are you primarily, you can check as many options as apply here. You can store training records, push out mandatory training, to build a learning culture, for talent retention and succession planning, and perhaps you don't have an LMS yet, so just check that option if it applies to you. Andrea, what do you expect our audience to be using their LMS for, based on the conversations you've had with people in the industry?
I think it's going to be a real mix, to be honest. I mean, you know, the range of customers that I do speak to, we, you know, go right from that they don't have an LMS, they're managing everything via spreadsheets, and you know, it's quite ad hoc, through to, you know, those larger organizations that need to track sort of key standards and look at sort of qualifications and succession planning strategies as well. So, but I think the majority of the customers that I'm speaking to really do look around, you know, using it for mandatory training, for that compliance piece, which is obviously quite key when it comes to being audited on those regards. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of mix we get from the responses.
Okay, great. I'm just going to close the poll now and share the responses. So you see about half of you don't have an LMS yet, but similarly, I'm assuming the other half are using it to use their existing LMS to store training records and push out mandatory training. Far fewer proportion are using it to build a learning culture, and only 11% for talent retention and succession planning. So that's kind of in tune with what you're hearing, Andrea.
Yeah, I think very much so. I think there's nothing too surprising there, but yeah, it's always interesting to get that sort of feedback and see what people are doing.
Okay, well, thanks for voting. Hopefully today's webinar will give you some food for thought about different ways that you might be using your LMS. I'm going to hand you over to Andrea now. I'm going to disappear off screen and I'll be back at the end to facilitate the Q&A. So Andrea, over to you.
Great, thanks, Catherine. So yeah, so before we jump into all things LMS, I just want to revisit a few numbers from our last webinar on the perspectives of the future of UK L&D. So we all know the UK labour market is tight at the moment. If you've tried to fill a vacancy recently or lost a great employee to a rival organisation, you'll know that competition for people is really high at the moment. So according to the Cypher Labour Market Outlook, which we published towards the end of last year, hard to fill vacancies are much more prevalent. Our own research conducted in November of last year underlines this. Nearly a third of workers said they are planning to look for a new job in the next 12 months. A further third said they haven't decided whether they'll stick with their current employer or try to find a new role. Employers' main responses to these hiring difficulties, according to the CIPD's report, are raising wages, which is unsustainable and expensive in the long term, upskilling staff, hiring apprentices, and improving job quality. 3 of these 4 of the top responses arguably involve the L&D team. So if we go on to the next slide, and it's just not organisations who are focused on upskilling. So employees too are realising that retaining or increasing their skills and knowledge is critical for their career development. According to our November 2021 survey, a third of UK employees have recently completed upskilling training. And we can see that certain segments of the working population are more adversely affected than others. 1 in 4 senior managers have already retrained and changed industry. A further 27% have retrained but not yet changed professions. And also around a third of young workers have retrained. So it's really key focus for a number of these employees at the moment. So with this in mind, how can a good LMS, or more specifically, Digits LMS, help you address these needs? Over the course of this webinar, we're going to take a look at how Digits LMS can help your L&D function address some of the challenges faced by today's organisational climate to deliver not only an exceptional learner experience, but which can also help with all aspects of the employee lifecycle to assist with talent acquisition and retention, upskilling of your employees, and creating a connected workforce. Time and time again, I hear about managing and tracking compliance training being the main focus and impetus for sourcing a new LMS, which will eliminate spreadsheets and manual tasks to ensure mandatory training is completed. However, if this is all you're using an LMS for, you are not taking advantage of its full potential. A good LMS can underpin all aspects of your employee lifecycle to ensure that you're not only attracting the best talent and providing the best employee experience from day one, but also nurturing and developing that talent to ensure retention remains strong, all the while being able to easily track and manage all aspects of your L&D function. So how can Digits LMS help you address these? Let's first look at analysing and identifying skill gaps and delivering personalised learning journeys. So you've all heard the saying, hire for attitude, train for skill. This can open up a whole new talent pool and contribute to your employer brand as an organisation committed to developing their staff. If you're seeking talent externally, have a think about developing entry-level programs, apprenticeships, or even reskilling programs to help upskill those inexperienced candidates, whether they be new to the world of work or even transitioning from another industry, sector, or job role to help them build and apply those transferable skills to a new role. However, don't forget your current employees. There may be some hidden talent that would be perfect for the roles that you're trying to fill. Other employees who are ready to move into more senior roles or who are keen to broaden their skills in a different team or specialism. This, of course, forms part of the discussions you might be having with employees within your performance review process. But where do you go from here to identify the most appropriate training to provide? Digits LMS, for example, has a skills analysis tool, which enables you to leverage your competency frameworks to highlight skills gaps and identify where best to focus training efforts. This could be used part of your recruitment or onboarding process, for example, to identify how much training a new starter might need to get up to speed, or simply as a continuous professional development tool to enable employees to be the best they can in their current role. Alternatively, where you're trying to fill vacancies with existing staff, this tool can help employees to identify their transferable skills, as well as areas that they might need to work on to ready themselves for that sideways move or their next promotion. Using the skills analysis function in this way then becomes a really powerful tool in your succession planning process. With these tools, you can link up training within the LMS, which will automatically recommend to the learner what they should focus on if they fall below a benchmark on a particular skill. And thereby it gives really clear direction on where their focus should be and what kind of training will help most with their development. Having identified the key skills gaps for a learner, they can then be directed to relevant, tailored learning pathways. The Journey Builder enables you to create engaging, visual learning pathways which can be assigned to employees based on their role and the organisational hierarchy. Using our map style journey, you can create dynamic, gamified views where learners can see the menu to show what they need to complete as part of the overall pathway. And then each pin on the journey links to different activities they need to complete as part of that program. Oops. And it's not just existing employees who'll benefit from tailored learning journeys. A great example is onboarding or induction programs. With our guide style template, it's really easy to create a comprehensive onboarding pathway. Think about how you promote learning right from the pre-boarding phase. Get employees ready to start work from day one by giving them access to required learning even before they start. Building this into the induction process with clear, meaningful pathways gives new starters a positive first impression, helps to get them up to speed in their role and feel confident faster. You can even set the journey to launch on login to ensure that new starters focus just on that learning that they need to do before then they're able to access the wider LMS. And then these can all be created with multiple activity types to deliver a truly blended learning experience. You might want your new starters to read some policies, take a quick quiz to confirm they've understood them, or you might then want to schedule a series of induction workshops to meet their peers and learn more about the different business functions and units. Alternatively, you might want other employees to complete e-learning and attend workshops to help address a skills gap, which could then be signed off by a manager via an assessment or an on-the-job training module. Rules and logic can also be built in to ensure learners complete prerequisite training, are directed onto the next relevant stage of the pathway, or even be made exempt from learning if they've already demonstrated pre-existing knowledge. These tools, however, aren't just there to help onboard new starters and improve skills improve skills in an existing role. Along with other functions, these can become valuable assets in your talent retention and succession planning strategy. So we ask, all this training is great, but what next? An employee has reached the top of their game in their role or is ambitious and wants to explore other career options. This is where succession planning leads to staff retention, where you can provide more opportunities for upskilling and career development to help retain staff and reduce turnover. You can leverage competency frameworks, on-the-job training and mentoring schemes to help prepare employees for the next step up. Whilst you might conduct reviews and monitor your staff turnover, your development needs and so on within your HR solution, an LMS can be used to close that loop by offering learning opportunities in line with the objectives set, the development needs identified and progress against which can then be discussed as part of your continuous review process. By integrating your LMS with your HR solution, as we do with Digits LMS and our Cypher Connect platform, although we can connect with other third-party HR platforms as well, you can create a really powerful tool which employees and the managers can use to track progress and access required learning all within one system. To begin with, Digits LMS provides a full suite of reports along with insights dashboards to help you maintain a clear picture of learning activity, engagement, and team analytics. Insights dashboards provide a view of staff composition and evolution, so you can see some of the changes in your employee population over time. Staff turnover and statistics around levels of experience within different roles can then be used to evaluate any trends and potential risks of talent gaps which may impact future business operations. Moving then from a holistic organizational view to take a more personalized perspective, identifying employees who are ready for that next step in their career can be supported by the skills analysis tool that we saw earlier. Whether to identify training needed to help employees get ready for that next promotion, or perhaps a sidestep into another part of the organization. Once you've done that analysis, maybe, for example, you could think about assigning a management framework for someone who wants to become a first-time line manager. This might identify them as having great delegation skills, but they might need a bit more work on their leadership. Based on the results, the next step might be to assign a management learning pathway, which could then include an on-the-job training module or an assessment to enable the employee's manager to sign them off as having completed the relevant training. And of course, as part of this process, recognising employee achievements will be key in providing that sense of progress and rewarding learning to keep motivation high. The advanced rules engine that's built into the platform can be leveraged to automatically award achievements or direct the learner onto the next level of training based on the results achieved. Tools are available to award customizable badges, certificates, and reward points for completion of activities and programs. Notification pop-ups will then alert users once they've secured those achievements, just to keep that motivation high. And leaderboards can help to sort of engage learners and create that sort of sense of competition amongst their peers. To take it further, consider calibrating those learning results with your business metrics. This could be to test or measure the efficacy of the learning, ensure it's supporting employees in the right way to deliver on those business objectives that you need to achieve. However, learning doesn't have to just be all about the content and programs that are available in the LMS. Your organisation is one big knowledge base filled with people of varying degrees of experience across different specialisms who can add a huge amount of value to their colleagues' learning process. An LMS like Digits can help facilitate and manage this knowledge exchange in a number of ways to create meaningful networks across your organization, which will not only promote collaboration and creativity, but will also help to create a connected workforce, which I'm sure you would all agree has been a huge challenge over these past couple of years. Firstly, we all know that mentoring relationships can really vary from the more formal programs down to the more common ad hoc conversations over a cup of coffee. The mentoring function in Digits LMS can help employees more easily seek out colleagues within defined areas of expertise with whom they can then connect to get advice and support. This feature not only allows employees to nominate themselves to become a mentor, but then enables individuals to search for, connect with mentors. Those individuals can also then arrange meetings and capture notes from the conversations all within the LMS system, keeping everything all in one place. This can really become an invaluable resource for employees who are looking to progress in their career, allowing them to tap into that expertise across your organisation to get a range of advice on areas that will help with their development. The discussion groups also facilitate peer-to-peer exchange of ideas and best practices. If we think back to the scenarios like onboarding, for example, where your new starters are being inducted within a remote or a hybrid environment, it can be really challenging for them to connect with their peers easily. You can set up specific discussion groups to enable new starters to share ideas and best practices, both with other new starters and with the more experienced colleagues in their teams. Equally, this tool could also be embedded within your wider L&D strategy to help build that strong culture of learning across your organisation, either by creating open groups around relevant topics for learners to join and interact with when they want to, or by assigning learners to closed groups following attendance at a workshop or completion of a key learning pathway. Finally, the knowledge base is a great way for your subject matter experts from across the organisation to create meaningful articles on topics that are of interest and relevance to your employees. This simply provides another more informal resource for learners to search for by keyword, category or competency, and access to help with their continuous development. It could simply be a series of help guides to support product or service knowledge, a range of top tips for specialist roles, or even wider industry knowledge pieces that will help employees stay up to date with industry and sector developments. All these functions really help embed learning into the everyday, which makes opportunities to learn more accessible and varied for all employees, and thereby contributing to that wider sort of development of your learning culture. But this is really all just the tip of the iceberg. An LMS is all of these things and so much more. It can help you move from that push to pull approach with self-service options like learning library, classroom booking functions, and easy access to dashboards and reports. It also provides that ability to create a well-rounded, engaging learning experience with the visual learning journeys, the badges and rewards, and your push notifications that you can send out. It enables you to take learning beyond that compliance aspect, giving you that flexibility to create multiple pathways to assign based on role and hierarchy with a blend of learning styles and approaches so that all learners find the learning as accessible as it needs to be. And ultimately, it's going to save you that valuable time in the delivery and management of learning. Reports and dashboards are at the click of a button. Automated workflows and notifications will remove that need for manual intervention and take away, the need to be sending out emails and managing spreadsheets separately. So just to recap, we've seen today how you can take your LMS beyond just a repository of compliance training that resides only within the domain of your HR and L&D teams to a full self-service tool which all employees can access and engage to help with not only their development, but also that of their teams. By taking advantage of features such as the ones we've discussed, you can really establish a strong culture of learning, which will help improve employee satisfaction, retain that vital talent, and build your employer brand as one that supports the development of your employees and provides them with so many opportunities to develop their career within your organisation. So thank you very much. Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for that really great run through of what an LMS could do for your organisation. I think loads of really thought-provoking and interesting ideas there and lots to take in for our audience. Now is the time that we have to answer your questions. So if you have any questions, send them in using the chat box on your screen and we will have a look at those for you. Okay, so the first one popped in. Amy asks, is the groups function only available on a certain platform? I'm assuming, Amy, you're asking, is that only available with an LMS that we're showing you, in which case it is a feature of Digits LMS, and I couldn't speak to other LMSs that are on the market. That would be a sort of a case of it going out to market, but I'm sure there's ways to interact within other LMSs. Andrea, you're kind of shaking your head.
Yeah.
You're nodding your head, not shaking your head.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a big part of what an LMS does these days, is to kind of facilitate that connection between learners. Can you kind of speak a little bit, Andrew, about why that's so important, that people are able to connect to each other in the context of learning rather than just doing it individually, sort of on their own computer?
Well, I think that sense of connection is really so key, and I think we've really understood the value of that throughout the pandemic. Of, once that connection's removed, we really notice a difference in our day-to-day work of not being able to just kind of get different perspectives on things. So whilst there's sort of set training that you can push out, but there's so much more in how we learn in the workplace, which is driven by those sort of peer-to-peer connections. So getting different ideas, getting different perspectives, different ways of doing things is so vital. So, and that's why we see that, an LMS should have that good blend of what we call an LXP, so a learner experience platform, as well as an LMS. So when we're talking about that kind of push and that pull, that you've got the benefit of both sides of it, so that you're completing that mandatory training, but you're also opening up an environment that it facilitates that peer-to-peer learning and allows learners to go and self-discover and take ownership really of their own development.
Sure. And actually, that might be quite a good opportunity. Could you explain a little bit of the difference between the terms LMS and LXP, in case anyone hasn't come across that before?
Yeah, sure. So LMS is really more about, it's kind of in the name, the management of your learning. So it's a way that you can either be sort of assigning clear, mandatory learning, you can be tracking that, keeping that repository of content. So it is very sort of an admin kind of heavy, but also, a way of kind of pushing out the required learning to employees. Whereas an LXP really gives you an opportunity to open up a sort of a content library for learners to go and self-discover. It gives you some of those social learning tools for interaction. It becomes more of a kind of a self-serve function where learners can, really sort of engage with that learning experience, rather than just being sort of told what to do. So they've got a bit of best of both worlds there.
And what we talk about with Digits LMS, it kind of is that best of both worlds. It has the really robust management functions that the L&D professionals need to demonstrate ROI, make sure that learners are being offered the right courses, but it has that layer of interaction, social media style groups, and sort of discovery and exploration that an LXP often offers. A great question from Michelle here, asking about what we would call off-the-shelf content that might be preloaded into Digits LMS. Could you explain, Andrea, a little bit about what we could offer in that respect?
Sure. So we work with 4 content partners at the moment. So we work with the sort of microlearn access content, Thrive, iHasco, and Simon Says It, and that covers a whole range of topic areas, right from your just standard compliance and health and safety training through mental health and well-being, IT skills, health and safety, and so on. But there's a range of other sort of soft skills and management leadership in those packages. So if you take one of those as part of our LMS package, we can implement that and import that directly as part of your implementation. But equally, there is the flexibility for you to work with other third-party content or even your own content within the platform, and upload that as needed.
That's great. So if, for example, Michelle, there was a content provider that you were super happy with, but you were looking to switch to LMS, then that would be entirely possible if you wanted to keep that existing content and just put it across. A really great question from Kevin. He asked, is there, in your opinion, Andrea, is there a number of employees at which it makes sense to have a dedicated LMS? And can companies without a dedicated HR or L&D function still benefit from having a specialist learning platform?
That's a really good question. I would say any organization can benefit from an LMS, but I think, sort of probably 30 to 50 plus, we've got a real range of customers. So we'll have those sort of, 30 to 50 plus employee right through to 50, 70,000 employees. So we cover the whole spectrum. And I think, and I think that point about, if you don't have an L&D function, it's really vital, because I do speak to a lot of clients who it might be just one HR person who's managing that whole function, and to add another system into the mix can be quite daunting. But what I would sort of say to that is that the platform is very much flexible, that, you can go down the whole bells and whistles route, or you can just keep it really, really simple. So if you just need a really straightforward system where you can push out your compliance training and maybe evolve that over time as you might, you might develop your L&D team over time, then it does have that flexibility to kind of start with a really basic approach and then evolve that to something bigger. The tools in there as well is going to save you a lot of admin time. So, the more you, obviously the smaller the team, the less admin you want to be doing, so you can actually focus on those more interesting and strategic imperatives. So, the reporting that's in there, the automation of the workflows, the automatic system notifications that will push out will save you oodles of time, especially when you're a small team, which will free you up to do those other more important tasks.
Yeah, it's all kind of really in the setup of it. Like the cool thing with Digits is you can set up all these roles and things happen automatically. You just have to do a little bit of hard thinking up front. If an organisation with a small L&D team were approaching us, Andrea, is there expertise within the Digits team to support people like setting up these rules, like and sort of formulating an L&D strategy, so to speak?
Yeah, 100%. So, as part of your implementation, we provide you quite a lot of consultancy and support and training anyway as standard. But if you do need some more support, we do have expertise in-house on hand. So if you needed some help with creating dynamic learning journeys, setting up some rules, managing some sort of data uploads and things like that, we can absolutely assist with that. So, so you won't be left out in the cold. We've got the support here if you need to tap into that as and when. Yeah.
Great, thank you. I've got a couple of questions here on integration. So Karen asks, does Digits integrate only with Cypher HR or with other HR platforms as well?
We can integrate with other HR platforms, and we have done that previously, and it's really kind of all down to how those platforms interact with third-party systems. So, so we would work with you at the time to understand what systems you have in place that you need the LMS to connect up with, and then we'd provide you with the best advice on how to achieve that.
Okay, great. And Morag asked, if it was integrated with Cypher HR, where would the training records be stored, in Cypher or within Digits LMS?
Mm-hmm. So Digits LMS does hold, you do have a training history for the learner for all their learning that they take within the LMS. However, this will pull out a very basic training record into the Cypher HR system. So we'll just say John Smith completed this course on this date. It will have that record within the HR system. So if you did want to report on that bit of information in line with your other people data that you're holding there, you can do that. But equally, there's a much more granular reporting structure within the LMS that will allow you to report on things like assessment results and booking summaries and training records reports and things like that. So.
Okay, great, thank you. Karen asks, is there an integration between the LMS and individual employee performance reviews? So I'm not sure, Karen, what system you're storing employee performance reviews in, but that would have the answer to that question would have would help us decide, figure out whether it would store against it. So it really just all depends like how your systems sort of map together and what your tech stack is. And as you can appreciate, like every organisation is completely different. Everyone's systems are set up different. So that would be something to explore in more detail if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Julia asks, how does Digits LMS integrate with Microsoft Teams in terms of delivering training online or in person and recording the learning outcome or feedback within Digits?
So we do have integrations in place with Teams, Zoom, Adobe and WebEx. So by having that integration set up means that when you set up schedules for any of your classroom-based training, so let's say you're running a virtual workshops, there's a calendar booking functionality within the LMS that learners can go in, search for courses, book themselves onto. If you set up a virtual workshop and you've got the integration in place, it will automatically generate a meeting link to put into that schedule. And then you can decide whether you want that to auto mark attendance. So it means if you've got that toggled on, the learner clicks on the link to join the session, it'll take them through the LMS and then straight into the Teams or the Zoom session, and the LMS will register that they've actually attended that course. So yeah, there are some automations in there, but for all intents and purposes, you would then host the learning on Teams or Zoom, whichever your preferred client is from there.
Okay, thanks, Andrea. Another question about the types of training content that Digits is compatible with. Can we upload SCORM files?
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, you can upload SCORM or you can link out to other e-learning partners via AICC. We also support videos, audio files, documents, and then there's some other, like an inbuilt assessment builder and on-the-job training modules within the system as well. So yeah, there's quite a wide range of training formats that we do support.
Right. And if someone was to integrate Digits LMS with their HR platform, I'm sorry, I'm not sure which one you're using, Michelle, would the system be single sign-on enabled?
Yep, so we can support single sign-on via SAML. We can also support single sign-on via like Microsoft, like Active Directory, ADFS. So yeah, depending on how you want people to access the system, we can advise the best way forward to do that.
Okay, brilliant. Is it possible for employees to upload their own external learning certificates to create an online CPD record?
Yes and no. So there's a couple of ways we can do that, but yeah, we can sort of facilitate that through like a work folder or via on-the-job activity. There is a facility to log other development outside of the platform as well, but we can, you know, absolutely go through that with you in more detail if you want to discuss that on a call.
Yeah, I think that all comes back to each organisation is set up in a really different way, and has, I mean, even within one organisation, different divisions, departments, geographies will all be carrying out and recording learning in different ways. But our team has loads of expertise to help you sort of unpick how you might want to record and store that within an LMS like Digits. So that's definitely something we could help you explore if you wanted to. Another question here is, can there be a link between competency gaps identified in performance appraisals in Cypher HR and Digits, so employees are directed to training to address competency gaps?
Can you say that question again?
Yeah. Would it be possible so that if you're carrying out your performance appraisals in Cypher HR, could the outcomes of that direct you to the learner to appropriate learning in Digits?
Right, got you.
I think that's what that means.
Yeah. So at this stage, we don't have an integration between the talent management function and the LMS directly at present. It is something we are looking at as part of our future roadmap. But of course, there are ways that you can sort of identify, you know, development needs, and then you can then go in and sort of assign learning accordingly to that employee within the system. So based on those conversations. So it's a bit of a manual process at the moment, but we are looking at closer integrations in future.
Amazing, thank you. And we talked about how it's possible to load Digits LMS with off-the-shelf content from the 4 providers that we specifically work with, but also other providers. Can you import content from multiple different providers into one Digits LMS? You're not restricted to one?
Yeah, absolutely. You can have 100 different providers or just one. It's really up to you. I mean, what we really sort of say though is the power of the LMS comes from you curating the content that's in there. So, you know, rather than, you know, because we've all gone onto LinkedIn Learning, for example, which is a fantastic resource, but there's so much on there. And if you're not quite sure where to start, which one is the best project management course or the best, you know, leadership course, for example, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So what you have the opportunity to do is to bring in, you know, your preferred content from different providers. So there might be one provider that's perfect for health and safety, but you might have another provider that, you know, provides top-notch management leadership training. So you kind of have that best of breed approach within your LMS and curate that content accordingly, so you know your employees accessing, you know, the most relevant, useful materials that they need to use.
Okay, fantastic. I'm just going to give people an opportunity to send in a final question, and I'll put my question to you, Andrea. So we looked at 3 ways that an LMS can really help to transform learning in an organisation. Of those 3 ways that we looked at today, which do you think is the most powerful, or which is your favourite of those?
I think the succession planning piece is my favourite, to be honest, because I think, you know, often you have so many times you have employees leave because they kind of hit a bit of a wall and just say, I can't go any further. And I think, you know, to have a tool that can open up a bit of a view, not only of that sort of step, you know, going vertically, but also horizontally, because, you know, and we've seen it in Cypher as well. We've got so many colleagues that move across different functions and sort of take the transferable skills from, you know, from sales to project delivery and areas like that. It's really great if an organization can offer those kinds of opportunities to retain their top talent within the organization and develop those longer term careers. So yeah.
Awesome, great point. Okay, with that, I think we've reached the end of our Q&A, so it just leaves it with me to wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining us today and for participating so brilliantly in our poll and our question and answer. If you'd like to learn more about Digits LMS, you can opt in using the exit survey that you'll see on the screen when this broadcast ends, or feel free to get in touch with Andrea directly. Her email address is on the screen now.